Writing in the New York Times, Mike Isaac explores a new Facebook tool that lets friends report posts that seem suicidal. Isaac writes that Facebook has been working with suicide prevention organizations Forefront, Now, MattersNow.org, and Save.org to develop the reporting tool. Facebook will review flagged posts. They'll review these posts more quickly. They will provide ways for the person reporting to communicate to the person at risk, and they'll offer suicide prevention resources. Now, it seems like this is a really good way of preventing suicide for the 1.65 billion people on Facebook. According to a Pew study, 72% of Americans are on Facebook, and 77% of American women use Facebook. Suicide is a rising problem, specifically with American women. Some privacy experts worry about the implications of Facebook tracking this sort of information. Becky, what are your thoughts on this kind of feature?
I was down at Facebook at their new Frank Gehry designed headquarters last summer. They were giving members of the media a tour. And one of the things that we did while we were there is we met with their family and life division, they call it. The woman who heads that up is a woman called Antigone Davis. And she really takes this as something that is a matter of personal pride for her. And they've been working on how to help with suicide prevention and reporting tools for some time now. They said they were trying to develop more sophisticated methods of reporting, but the problem that they faced was they didn't want to lay out tools that wouldn't help people in real time. So they didn't want to create a false impression that Facebook could help solve the problem until they had the back end there to support people in real time. So if you go now onto their reporting page, you will see that it does say if you feel that someone is suicidal, you need to call the police right away. And there have been stories on Facebook in the past of people who've sensed that Facebook posts felt like goodbye notes, and they've called the police, and there have been interventions that have been successful. But what I really learned about this problem on Facebook is that people really don't know what to do, and they don't have good instincts, or they don't know how to trust their instincts when they think that someone is leaning towards self-harm. On top of that, you think about vague booking, when people kind of make these comments that are unclear and you don't really know what it means, and it might be someone that you haven't seen since high school. It's very confusing for friends. And so I think what Facebook is trying to do now is, one, provide a way to report anything that someone says that you feel may lead to suicide, and lead you to immediate help, some time-shifted help. They say they have people on now 24/7 that can reach out both to you as the reporting party and give you some ways to talk to the person that you're worried about, and also to reach out to that Facebook person and through their account directly, which is, to your point, Megan, an incredible risk on their part, and may be perceived as a big privacy intrusion. But it's a bold statement for a good cause.
So they're not actually looking at our posts and finding out if we're suicidal. They're just monitoring the responses of our friends who say, I think this person is suicidal.
That's my understanding of this, that it's not algorithmic. It's based on crowdsourcing reporting of things that make people worried about their Facebook friends.
I imagine it could be, at least in the case of, life and death, quite literally, it could be a liability for Facebook if it was analyzing this and decided on itself, oh, well, I think this person is or is not suicidal, so I'm going to reach out to them and whatever. Although I don't think that that means that they aren't learning, that their algorithms aren't learning from this aspect. You have to imagine any of this is run through their computers in a way that where those computers can kind of learn what kind of communication points to someone who is suicidal versus not, and maybe there's a way to handle it in the future. I think it's a pretty unique approach, though, not necessarily going out there and just helping directly, but using the person who reported kind of as the conduit and informing them of the best way to approach it and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, I've never been suicidal, but I can imagine when you are in a fragile state like that, I would imagine it would be better to be approached by someone who is very familiar and who knows you and everything, versus some random, algorithmic triggered thing out of nowhere where it's like, hey, we think that thing you said was weird. Let's talk about this. Like, I think that's the right way to go about it.
Well, Mike,
And they've really partnered with a lot of well-established suicide groups to try and do this the right way and to do this with real humans, not algorithmically, to your point.
Right.
they also said that the algorithm is working in your favor in this case, because they said that research shows that when you post something sad on Facebook, people are more likely to respond to it. And so then as you respond, the things that you respond more often to, the people that you respond more often to, will then show up in your timeline more often. So if I'm constantly saying, I am sad, I'm depressed, and then people are saying, like, I hope you feel better, or sending me emojis, then if I were to say, I think I'm going to take my life, I would probably show up higher in other people's algorithmic feed. And it's a weird thing to think about, but it is interesting too. I mean, it's one of these things that there are so many people on Facebook using it every day that I'm glad that there's something like this here, even though everyone is not going to like it.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, between this and Safety Check, you know, and just the sheer number of users that Facebook has, they have an incredible kind of architecture for emergencies right now, you know, and I'm sure that that's going to continue to grow just because based on those numbers alone.
I feel so ignorant to all the tools that Facebook is actually providing. I mean, just in researching this story, I dug into the how would you actually flag something? And, you know, I realized I've never flagged a comment on Facebook. I've never flagged a post and said, I don't know. I mean, not just in something that's suicidal, but something that I found offensive or anything in that realm. And realizing it was kind of an education to go through it. And you don't actually have to, just by hitting that button, you know, flag this comment, flag this post. I actually learned a lot about some of the tools that are there that I hadn't even thought about before.